host of the Gridiron.
Right? Who's to blame for the Daniel Jones debacle? Well, I think there's a lot to go around here. There's an article I'm going to read here. It says, who's to blame? I think they got, in this article here, they got, talk about, I think it's like 4 guys they got, but there's a lot to go around. It says, 4 New York Giants most to blame for the Daniel Jones catastrophe. All right, they got here Jones himself. Look, Jones is too far down the ORG chart to be public enemy number 1, but we can't let him off the hook entirely. He showed shockingly little development since being drafted in the top 10 a full 6 years ago. Yeah, it's true. Showing the same indecision, inaccuracy, and lack of awareness that plagued him as a rookie. His athleticism and arm strength would make him a serviceable backup. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So we've seen players with Jones' rough skill set improve to become at least functional as they adapt to the NFL. But Jones' processing speed is the same as it ever was, and he still puts the ball in harm's way consistently. His desire and work ethic isn't an issue. Absolutely not. The dude puts in the work. Some players just flat out don't have it, and it appears that Jones is just one of those. Next guy would be Joe Schoen to blame. Of course, all of this was pretty apparent some 18 months ago, but that didn't stop the Giants from handing out a 4-year, $160 million contract extension anyway. New York's current predicament stems in large part from misevaluating just how close it was to meaningful competitiveness after that surprise playoff run in 2022, and that misevaluation can be laid at Schoen's feet. It was clear that New York was a little feel-good story, nothing more. Sure, Debacle and offensive coordinator Mike Kafka have constructed a functional offense out of a little more than spare parts, and the defense have found a few playmakers. But a run of close game luck and wild card round win over Minnesota Vikings team that everyone knew was overrated shouldn't have been nearly enough for this brain trust to change course and tie itself to Jones moving forward. Well, hindsight's always 20/20. Had Schoen simply slapped Jones with the franchise tag, he could have had one more crucial year to evaluate his quarterback and maybe kept Saquon Barkley around too. Another guy the Giants had to blame for the Daniel Jones debacle would be Dave Gettleman. Of course, while Schoen is the reason Jones is still a Giant, he's not the GM who drafted the guy in the first place. That decision obviously goes back to Dave Gettleman. At least you think this is mere hindsight. Please understand that drafting Jones 6 overall in the NFL draft was as baffling at the time as it seems now. A walk-on at Duke, Jones was just fine during his career with the Blue Devils, the kind of guy who gets remembered fondly by his fan base for years to come while never looking like anything more than a nice college quarterback. And yet, because he cut a certain profile and interviewed well, Gettleman was smitten, insisting not just on taking Jones at all, but on taking him well ahead of where most big boards had him. Trading down to accrue more draft capital and then throwing a dart at a potential franchise quarterback is one thing. Blowing a golden chance to set the course for your franchise on someone who threw for fewer than 7 yards per attempt with less than 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio in the ACC is quite another. And once Gettleman did tie the Giants' fate to Jones, he then promptly failed to surround him with the support he might need to grow and eventually excel. Yep. Then they got here. The other one would be is John Mara. They think John Mara is here. Is one of the reasons why for the Daniel Jones debacle. Says John Mara, and yet neither Jones nor Schoen nor Gettleman are the one true common denominator in over a decade of Giants futility, though it all has been Mara, the one holding the purse strings and making the hires. He's the one who brought Gettleman in, the one who signed off on a series of increasingly questionable head coaching choices, the man whose long been either incapable or unwilling to imagine New York growing into the 21st century. Instead, this team still does business the way it always has. And while that maybe worked in the past, it's clear for years now, that the league has left the Giants in the dust. Analytically, strategically, organizationally, you name it. Jones is merely a symptom of a team-wide disease, one that has to be placed at the owner's door. All right. Well, let's see. Who wrote that? Chris Landers, whoever that is. No idea. But, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, for the Daniel Jones. I mean, obviously, he's problem with the one problem is his star player has always been behind him, right? I mean, it would be nice to couple him up with some other, I mean, look what they did in Philadelphia. Now, and once again, to be fair, right, in Philadelphia, they surrounded with Jalen Hurts. He had a phenomenal offensive line. Of course, he's got Brown, right? He's got Devontae Smith, and he's got Saquon Barkley. But now, once again, to be fair, the Giants don't do their business the way the Eagles do. Howie Roseman just signs these guys. And he puts a bunch of void. He owes so much money after these guys are gone. That's how he's able to bring in all this talent. He just signs them. What do you want per year? Okay, well, he signs them whatever makes him happy. So he signs these huge contracts, makes Howie look like like he's the greatest guy on earth and all of that. But all he does is push all this money down the road. He's all in right now, right? Giants don't roll that way. Most teams don't roll that way. The Eagles are all in right now, and I think it's 2027 or 2026, whatever it is. One of those years, Jalen Hurts is owed almost $100 million. Why? Because Howie Roseman signed him the 50, 51, 52, 50, whatever it is, million per year. And basically, he's paying them all later on. I think it's like between like Hurts, Saquon, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown. All four of those guys combined like $10 million or something like toward the cap this year. Why? Once again, because all the money is pushed down the road, right? Giants don't work like that, right? That's why Jalen Hurts has a number one running back. He has almost like two number one wide receivers. He's paying Lane Johnson, a Hall of Fame right tackle, like $3 trillion a year because he's all pushing all the money down the road, right? That's why the Eagles look good and the Giants don't, right? But I mean, but one of the problems I said, like with Daniel Jones, he's never had, this is like his first year he's had maybe a bona fide number one wide receiver. So let's not forget, Odell Beckham was there in 2018. 2019, when Daniel Jones came in, Odell Beckham was gone. Odell Beckham Jr. was there the 1 year with Saquon Barkley, right? We had the 1 year, we had our best, pretty much our biggest, biggest head case too, but I mean, a number one wide receiver, almost maybe of all time, you can say. I mean, of course, his numbers don't compare to Monty Toomer, his intelligence, all that doesn't compare to Monty Toomer, because he's a head case and all. But as far as a mismatch and all that stuff and Odell Beckham Jr. was number one. Then, of course, you got Saquon, right? One of maybe the best running back we ever, maybe. You certainly put him up there with Tiki Barber, but and then we had Eli Manning in there. So like for 1 year, and then we even had Ingram, right? Not the greatest tight end, but he was a mismatch, right? So we had some great weapons there. Of course, Eli was getting toward the end of his career. Offensive line maybe wasn't that great, but he tried to surround Eli with some good talent. That's why he took Saquon and picked number 2. Overall, we tried to surround Eli with some talent to help him maybe get another ring, right? But with Daniel Jones, I mean, as I said, his best player has always been the running back behind him, right? They've never surrounded him with a ton of talent, really, really talented, big-time threat receivers. We've always had a hard time, protecting them. Whether the coaching stinks, the offensive line stinks, we have some decent offensive linemen, but then they get injured, and then the guys we bring in stink, or get just one injury after the other, and we got to keep rotating offensive linemen in there, and there's no cohesion, and therefore the offensive line stinks. Daniel Jones getting injured because the offensive line stinks, and then he's like shell shocked. So anytime he's back, he's like staring down the one receiver, instead of maybe looking around, but so he's just like locking on a one. First chance he gets, he tries to throw it to the one. Right? Maybe he's just shot, just gone, spent because of being hit so many times. Who knows? So there's a lot of blame to go around. Obviously with Gettleman. Gettleman went down there and he saw Daniel Jones at I don't know, it was the Senior Bowl or whatever it was, and it was just like, wow, that's pretty good. Now, whether somebody else would have drafted him or not before the Giants had their second first-round pick that year or not, who knows? But there's a lot of blame to go around. Obviously, Daniel Jones, he's just some guys, it's not easy. If it was that easy, there'd be a lot more guys. That's why we have so many quarterbacks each year coming out of the draft and this, that, and the other thing. And every year, we're still, we're always looking. There's probably like every year, 10 teams or so, almost every year, looking for a quarterback. Every year. We have 350 trillion people on the face of the earth here, and we can't even get 32 starting quarterbacks. Well, of course, we can get 32, but we can't get 32 decent starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There's just not enough to go around. That's another one of the reasons why, as far as like expansion, right? Like, let's expand out. I'm just saying, let's have a division or a conference out in Europe or something like that, right? How cool would that be? Or we'll have some teams, whatever. Have some teams out of Mexico, whatever, something like that. There's not enough offensive tackles. There's not enough quarterbacks going on. There's just not enough. And it's telling you something. There's so many people out there playing quarterback. And when they come to the NFL, we don't even have 32 quarterbacks on the face of the earth. We don't even have 32 people on the face of the earth who can come in and play NFL quarterback. We have 32 who can play an NFL quarterback. Daniel Jones can. But we don't have 32 people on the face of the earth who can play quarterback at a high level. Right. And it just goes to show you how difficult it is. Right. So there's a lot, a lot of blame to go around. As I said, certainly Gettleman's at the top of the list because he's the one that drafted him. Right. But it is what it is. Some guys can do it. Eli could do it. Eli could get hit, get back up. Right? Remember about that 2011 championship game? He got pummeled time and time again. Coming up, looking up, his helmet's on sideways, looking, whatever. Is that complete? What's going on? Right? Coming up, getting hit, getting pummeled, right? Get back up, slinging it once again. Some guys can do it. Some guys can't. Eli Manning can do it. Daniel Jones can't. So the biggest thing in the offseason, right, is if the Giants moving forward, whoever it is, if it's Dable, Shane, or somebody else, whatever it is, finding that quarterback who can do it. And that's a lot easier said than done. All right, guys, it's been 1 hour and 30 minutes. Whoever spent any time listening to me live, thank you. Or if anybody's going to spend any time watching a replay this, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. As always, you guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo! Oh, yeah.